So I'm looking at this list here of Pueblo's leaders, of Pueblo's past, Pueblo City. In 1870 to 1872, they had 5 trustees, and there was no executive branch, there was no mayor. Then in 1873, James Rice becomes the first mayor, and he's mayor for 3 years. And then John R. Lowther, and then Mahlon D. Thatcher, Weldon Keeling, William H. Hyde, then William H. Hyde again, G.Q. Richmond, John H. Warnicki, 3 years in a row, T.G. McCarthy. So look at all these mayors, right? We had a shit ton of mayors from 1873 to 1877, or 1889, let's see, until 1911. Okay, so there's a shit ton of mayors there. So we've had lots of strong mayors. Remember the strong mayor of James B. Oman? Remember the strong mayor of George F. West? Remember the mayor of B.B. Brown? Remember when the strong mayor of B.B. Brown really whipped Pueblo into shape? Remember when B.B. Brown whipped Pueblo into shape? So 1911 happens, and then there's 2 charters, okay? So we got the 1954 charter, but we had a 1911 charter. And both of these periods are considered progressive periods. You're rewriting the entire rules to the game, and then you get to, when you establish the rules in Monopoly, you can make sure that the bank never, they never go bankrupt, right? The bank never goes bankrupt. Or maybe if they screw over a lot of people, they should go bankrupt, right? So if you could change the rules to the game, well, that's revolutionary. Constitutional change is revolutionary. Change in leadership is revolutionary. And those are electoral revolutions. So 1911, we had a charter convention. And I'm glad that I found this out, because it's now, just like in the very beginning when you had 5 trustees, now you have 5 commissioners. And then it's going to be changed to 3 commissioners, because there's 3 people voting for one way, 2 voting against the other way. So they're like, we're sick of this. So they just put 3 commissioners. Now what's important to understand about this is when you have the city manager and then you have the city council. City council is the legislative branch. It's a legislative branch, okay? So the commission form of government, there's no city manager, there's no mayor, so who's the leader? Well, the leader is all of them. All 5 of these commissioners, or all 3 of them, past 1913. So 3 commissioners, just like the counties run. The county is run with a triumvirate of power. There is no legislative branch, there is no division of power, there is no checks and balances with the commission form of government. With the commission form of government, like the county, we have 3 commissioners who both do the appropriating and the legislating, and they do the executing and the signing and the enforcement of the laws. So they do both. They do both the duties of the executive and the legislative branch. Well, I believe in a strong legislative branch. I believe in a checks and balances kind of system. If we have the commissioners, one branch is both legislative and executive, well, that's not a division of power. So for for many years, from 1911 to 1950, so for about, 40 years there, 30 or 40 years, we had a commission form of government. The city did. And then in 1950, John Oliver Hall changed that. Now, I found one mistake in one of the write-ups. John Oliver Hall was the city manager when we turned into a council manager form of government in 1950 and 1951 and 1952, but he's not the city manager in 53 or 54. Russell W. Rink is. So who brought forth the 1954 Pueblo charter? Russell W. Rink. But who was the first person to operate as city manager under the council manager form of government? John Oliver Hall. So John Oliver Hall in 1950 was the city manager, and then in 1954 we got the charter changed. In 1950 it was just a modified charter of 1911. In 1954 it was a completely new charter. So thank you to Russell W. Rink. Russell W. Rink served for 4 years, 53, 54, 55, and 56, and he would be the city manager that oversaw the charter convention. So, great. And the whole point of the charter convention, the whole point of changing it to a council manager form of government is look at these damn corporations, right? The American corporation, their organizational system, bar none, best in the entire world. So they copied the exact same model that corporations do. The corporations have board of directors. Board of directors choose the CEO. CEO does as the fuck as they please. Same thing with the city of Pueblo. Still today, we choose the city council people, and then they choose the city manager. So we choose the board of directors, and then the board of directors choose the CEO. So that's our system of government. You want to be a strong mayor? Well, then apply to be city council. You want to be a strong mayor? Apply to be city manager. Apply to be city manager. When the city council gets up there, apply to be city manager, then you get to become the mayor, the de facto mayor, what we call mayor around here. And if you don't know that, in order, that we call our mayor city manager and that you don't get elected to be city manager, you apply. So you got to, instead of convincing the entire city, all you got to do is convince 7 people. So convince 7 people that you'd be a better city manager, then bam, now you're the star. Now you're the head honcho. So I'm not for sure if we can, I don't like getting these outsiders, so we need to be incubating. We need to be creating leaders. Or do we have a leadership class? Is our educational system, are they making connections to businesses and doing it like Switzerland? I mean, there's a lot of shit that we're not, it's like people are just, we're educating them into what? Into oblivion? So I was happy to know about that. One quick, it was kind of a weird thing to me. The commission form of government, when they try to convince the public, what they said was, well, if you want a commission form of government, then you're getting rid of the, you're getting rid of the legislature. No, it's for the strong mayor. So there was a, if you wanted a strong mayor, people were sitting there saying that you're going to make a weaker city council. That's correct. That's absolutely 100% true. If the executive branch is strong, then the legislative branch is weak. So you want a strong executive branch? Okay. But you're going to have a weak city council. I want a strong executive. I want a strong legislative branch. I want a strong legislative branch to put the check on the executive and the judicial branch, just like our forefathers had envisioned. I believe in the rule of law. I believe in checks and balances. Does anybody else? Does anybody else? We got a commission form of government, which there is no legislative branch, right? They're both one branch, executive and legislative. Right now we have 2 branches, 2 co-equal branches. We have a legislative branch, right? Noraki and the other 6. That's the legislatures, and then the executive is same as that. So the argument, they try to say, no, city council wouldn't have less power. They would actually have more power because they would be relieved of their duties, of their executive duties. So instead of actually spending the money in the budget, instead of actually making the decisions, then council goes back to its suggestive role. And that's really all legislatures are. There are lots of suggestions, and then the executive takes and runs with those. So you got to try to, corral them. You got to try to box them in, try to get the parameters of policy. As the legislative branch, you've got to corral your dog. You got to corral your pit bull. So you got your asshole, your city manager, who's going to be the Führer over everybody. So city council, what you do is you got to make sure that Sam Azad is doing what he's supposed to be doing. That's how our system works, and that's a good system because that's 3 governments. If we do the strong mayor, weak city council thing, well, we're going to have a strong executive, but we're going to have a weak city council. Why the fuck would we want a weak city council? What good does a weak city council do for any of us? To relieve our duties, so it's actually more power because we relieve it. No, fuck you. It's less power if you're relieving the duties of the executive branch. But that's the thing, is that there are 3 branches of government, and people will say whatever the fuck it is that they need to say. So you actually get more power because instead of actually having real power, we relieve you of your duties of having real power, and then we give you this fake power, and then you get it, So there's 3 branches of government. You got the judicial branch, right? That's clear. The 10th judicial branch. That's the judicial system. And then you have the executive and the legislatures. And who are the executive and the legislatures? Are they co-equal branches to the judicial branch? And why or why not? So that's sort of a quick little overview of the history. After 1954, we've had the city manager for quite some time. George H. Fellows was the city manager for what looks like 8 years. Fred E. Weisbrod, he was the city manager for 16 years. Lou Quigley was the city manager for, I was going to say 13 years. So Louis Quigley, 13 years. Fred Weisbrod, 16 years. Lee R. Everett, David J. Galley, Jerry Pacheco, and then James Munch, Jenny Edelman, and then eventually Sam Azad. So those are the city managers. You want strong executive branch? Well, we had Lewis Quigley ran everything for 13 fucking years. You want a strong executive? Fred E. Weisbrod ran this entire city for the last 16 years. And how come you don't know about Fred Weisbrod? Did you go to public schools in Pueblo? Is that why? It's probably a number of reasons why the civics are so shitty around here, right? It's probably a number of elements. Is it the government not telling you about this stuff? Is it the media not informing you? Is it the education system that's not informing you? Or is it you who's just not curious and doesn't give a shit about our democracy? It's one of those three, and probably more reasons than just those. So, people, you want a strong mayor? Well, okay, remember when we had the strong mayor of George F. West and J.E. Reiser? Remember the strong mayor of J.E. Reiser in 1902? 1902, good old strong mayor J.E. Reiser. And then we had strong mayor B.B. Brown for 2 years. And then we had strong mayor Dr. Abraham Lincoln Fugard. Strong mayor L.B. Straight in 1893. Remember the good old 1893s? Well, there was a panic that happened then. So W.B. Hamilton, 1891, great strong mayor. Remember the strong mayor of 1890, Charles Hinkle. Remember the strong mayor of 1889, Andrew A. Grome. Remember the strong mayor of Andrew Royal in 1888. How about Charles Henlow, or Debs L. Holden, or Delos L. Holden, T.G. McCarthy? Oh yeah, that's why. Okay, that's what you guys are saying. All you strong mayor advocates, you want to go back to the days of T.G. McCarthy, right? You're like, you know what? 1885 and 1886 were the greatest years. It was before the consolidation, and the strong mayor of T.G. McCarthy was just such a great inspiration to the city of Pueblo. Let's reverse. Let's go backwards. Let's go before the progressive revolution. Let's go back to when it was just a bunch of outlaws and, you know, Fort Pueblo massacres. Who gives a shit, right? Let's just go back 300 fucking years. We already tried the mayor system. We tried the mayor system from 1873 until 1911. So for 40 years, 20, 30, 40 years. So what, 30 years? Let's see, 73, that's 27 plus 11. So for 38 years, the city of Pueblo has had a strong mayor. We got rid of the strong mayor for the commission-style government like the county does. And then we got sick of that shit, and then we went ahead and formed ourselves like a corporation. Like a corporation, right? Corporations are so effective and so efficient, so let's model our government after the corporations. Let's have our board of directors. Let's vote for the board of directors. So there is democracy there. We're voting for our representatives, and then you got to get the representatives to do as the city manager says. So maybe that two-step process is too much for people. They're like, oh my gosh, first I got to decide on the managers, then I got to put the pressure on. Can't I just elect somebody and they do all the work and then I don't have to worry about none of it? No, you can never do that. That's not a democracy. If you're not a politician, then you're a citizen, and as a citizen, you need to be paying attention to these assholes, because they'll pop off with a bunch of crazy ass fucking ideas, and then you just gotta accept it, right? So when good old strong mayor, let's see here, let's pick one. W.B. Hamilton. So W.B. Hamilton, he was a strong mayor of Pueblo City in 1891 to 1892. So 1891, right? Good old strong manager, or strong mayor, W.B. Hamilton. You want to go back to W.B. Hamilton days or the L.B. Straight? Let's go back to the L.B. Straight and the A.T. Kings. Those are two mayors. Those are two mayors in the city of Pueblo. And I would say most people in Pueblo don't even know about it, you know. And I think it's unfortunate, because if you learn history, you see that we've tried this strong mayor thing and that it's failed. And, you know, everybody that's talking about it, there's no theoretical basis for what they're saying. that you believe in popular democracy, but you don't believe that the police chief should be elected. So when they hire the police chief behind closed doors, you're okay with that. But if they hire the manager behind closed doors, that's when you got a problem. Either you're for popular democracy or you're against it. Do you want all these executive positions to be voted on? Because I would respect that. You believe in popular democracy, so therefore the executive director of the water board should be elected. Let's quit electing these legislators. Let's elect the executives. So the executives of the water board, we don't elect. The executive of the civil service board, we don't elect. All the directors of all these different departments, we don't elect. And so if you're truly for popular democracy, then you would be for the police chief being voted upon. You would be for the water board and the civil service board and all these other executive positions to be voted on. But if you don't believe in popular democracy, somebody just said strong mayor, and you're like, huh, you know, if we had a good strong mayor, that'd be really good. And that's true, right? But how do you prevent us from getting a bad strong mayor? That's the question. How do you prevent us from getting a bad strong mayor? Because this is our system. This is our system. And I don't hate it. I think it could be improved. It could be better. I think a charter convention would be incredible. But signing a ballot question, so these, you know, they're not even operating on the charter. So this is, they're gonna trigger a constitutional crisis. So, you know, I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but my feelings are, if some of these illegal ballot measures get passed, then it will create a constitutional crisis. It won't fix anything, and you're going to be clamoring for some new ideas within a short amount of time. And so I don't want bad things to happen, but I think Strong Mayor and Jenny Paulson's Question 300, I don't think either one of them are illegal. She's essentially creating her own small army, her own budget, and she could get 20 to 30 cops, and she's going to be running, you know, the police. So she's essentially the police chief. So when it comes to the 24 cop question, do you want to give more cops to Troy Davenport, or do you want to give more cops to Jenny Paulson? So Strong Mayor, Question 300, both of these are illegal. Let's assume they both pass. If they both pass, that'll be horrible. That'd be bad for Pueblo City. Now we have a fourth branch of government, the Jenny Paulson branch of government, and then the Strong Mayor thing would be, you know, good for the city council people who's going to legislate this into law. And how are they going to legislate it into law? They're not going to go through the charter convention. I guarantee you that. Those fucking bastards. They won't go through the damn charter convention and do the process the way that the charter's supposed to do. You know, they're going to get some fucking lawyer to speak legalese and be like, no, the charter actually doesn't mean what it says it means. How does the charter not mean what it says it means? What kind of fucking sense is that? We're a council manager form of government. You want to change that, you get a charter convention. That's the way you do it. That's the proper process. If you're not doing that, then what you're doing is illegal. So I'm still of the opinion that this is going to be tyranny. This is going to create a corrupt government. Only a corrupt government could have asked the question to begin with. And then once the question is passed, you're going to make that corrupt government even more corrupt. You're going to make it's tyranny. You're voting for tyranny. And, you know, perhaps out of all this bullshit, one could emerge. But you're telling me that Nick Gradisar, who is, you know, the water board member, so he's a water board member. He's been the board, you know, the member of the water board for the past 20 years. So that's enough qualifications for him to write, you know, a ballot question, a new form of government. Well, why would we not give Nick Gardasar the power to change our entire form of government? He's been a water board member. I mean, that's enough qualifications to rewrite our entire form of government, right? Ah, fuck it. Let's just revamp it and change everything. Do you want checks and balances? Do you want the rule of law? I don't hear anybody talking about these things. I feel like I might be the only one. So that's my feelings there. Let's mention a couple of these. So Andrew Royal. So we need to go back to the 1888 days of Andrew Royal. Remember Strong Mayor Andrew Royal? He was a royal pain in the ass. And then you had Andrew A. Grome. And he was a real Grome pain in the ass. But as 1889 and 1888, Strong Mayor Charles Hinkle, 1887, Strong Mayor Delos L. Holden, 1886. What happened to all these strong mayors? Where did they go? Do you even know about any of them? Do you know if any of these strong mayors were effective at doing any fucking thing? Did they accomplish anything? Did they get the Riverwalk? Did they get us a hospital? Did they get us St. Mary Corwin? These are successes. Who were behind those successes? So, strong mayor is not going to save, is not going to solve all your problems. It could very much exacerbate your problems. So, yeah, I guess I hope a progressive emerges, but I'm not going to hold my breath. 1 point for the strong mayor advocates. When I look at these, the difference between mayors and the city managers, there's a high turnover rate when it comes to mayors. Mayors are only mayor for about a year and then that's it. So they get in, they try to do their thing, then they get booted out. Well, if you had a long-term program, you're not going to be able to enforce long-term programs. So if you want stability and continuity, the mayor program, the mayor system shows that we're not going to have stability or continuity. You're going to have a brand new mayor every other year. And so we're going to be campaigning, right, non-stop, 24/7. And when do we govern? When do we govern? So that's the, you know, that's the pros for them. But the pro for the strong mayor people, here the city managers, right, George H. Fellows was city manager for 8 years. 8 fucking years? That's George Washington, you know, 8 years is how long George Washington was in there. Fred E. Wisebroad. So the Wisebroad administration, they ran probably the longest tenure of 16 years. So for 16 years, this Fred E. Wisebroad from 1968 to 1984, Fred Wisebroad ruled over Pueblo. So you have 8 years for Fellows, you got 16 years for Wisebroad, you got 13 years for Quigley. In between Quigley and Wisebroad, you had Bramble. In between Fellows and Wisebroad, you had Berlin for 1 year. You had Bramble for 1 year. And then before Fellows, you had Glenn S. Turner for 2 years and then Russell W. Rink for 4 years. There's some stability here. There's some stability, but then it also goes, you know, above and beyond the call of duty. Lee R. Evett was in there for 3 years. David J. Galley was in there for 5 years. And then Jerry M. Pacheco was in there for 3 years. So all these city manager positions, they had a longer tenure than the mayor. The mayor was only in there for 1 or 2 years and then they got booted out. And then the city managers, so if we're going to try to prevent this, you know, sort of this monarchy, these people who get in there, then they stay in there forever, that would be the only problem I could see with the city manager position, is that you can get a Lewis Quigley who stays in there for 16 fucking years, and, you know, what the fuck did Lewis Quigley do? What the fuck did Lewis Quigley do? Did he actually make this place a better thing? Because he was the monarch for 16 fucking years. Lewis Quigley ran the city of Pueblo. So, you know, for 16 years. So I'm saying that that's a bad thing. I'm saying that that's a bad thing because, you know, you want new blood, you want new ideas, and if Lewis Quigley is running everybody from, you know, all throughout the 70s, all throughout the 80s, this fucking Wisebroad, not all throughout, okay, Wisebroad was through the 70s, and then Quigley was throughout the 90s. So Quigley gets the entire 90s, and then Wisebroad gets the entire 70s. We just give entire decades to these individuals. So how do you prevent, you know, the city manager tyranny from sticking in there forever? I don't see how actually it would be a problem, because you know how you fire a city manager? You fire them. That's how you do it. Just like, you know, Donald Trump says you're fired. So you actually have a Donald Trump power that's reversed. You can fire the powers that be. If you had the power to fire Donald Trump, how quick would you do it? How fast would you do it? Would you do it just like he does? Like, you're fired, fuck you, you're at will employment, so you know, get the fuck out of Dodge? That's how we could do it right now. That's how we can do it right now. You want to get rid of that? You want to get rid of the power to fire the city manager? It takes 30 fucking days. 30 days, city manager is out. 30 days, majority vote. So 4 out of 7 voters, that's all you need is a majority vote. Simple majority vote. And 30 days. You got to give them a 30-day notice. So that's it. That's it. It would have been easy as fuck for Fred Wisebroad or Lewis Quigley to be fired any of those days, but that's the thing with the entrenched incumbency. We got a 95% rate of incumbency here in the United States. Because once they get power, then it's harder, it's hard as hell for anybody else to break in, or how, to get into the system. So I'm not for sure why is brought, and I think this actually might be the thing is, they're all supposed to be friends, so they don't want to actually tell Fred that, he's fired, because they would still want to be his friend. And then if you try to fire him and you don't fire him, then you just lost all your power with the city manager, right? You're basically saying that he's going to get, but I don't think it's going to be that bad. If anything, they should fight for your love even more. And, I don't think it's that bad to fire the city manager. I think that might be what is happening right now. Sam Azad, you have the city council that don't want to fire Sam Azad, and instead of just firing him 30 days, we're finding a replacement instead of just getting a brand new city manager. Because if you actually chose somebody, if you're a person who's saying, you know what, Chris Nickel, I think Chris Nickel would be the best mayor, or the best person to be mayor. I want to be for Chris Nickel. I'm going to vote for this strong mayor so he can become mayor. Okay, is that your choice? That's what you're saying, is that you think that Chris Nickel is going to be the greatest mayor, and so he should be the chief executive. Well, if he wants to be the chief executive, I mean, he can't be part of city council. He's got to get out of city council for a year. But then after a year, he can apply and become city manager. So if you want Chris Nickel to become the mayor of Pueblo, then just it's almost like people are addicted to the campaigns. They're addicted to the popularity contest, but they don't give a shit about good, sound governance. Because if you're for good, sound governance and you think Chris Nickel is going to save us all, Chris Nickel is going to save us all as long as we just give him all the fucking power. He's got a shit ton of power right now. And I don't think Chris Nickel is going to save us all. Chris Nickel could become the strong executive right now. I mean, with the process that we have, not right now, I mean, we have to, serve out his city tenure. But my point is, anybody who wants to run for the chief executive position, the city manager position, can do so. Anybody can do this. So, and look at what Sam Azad has to do. He's got to come up with the state of Pueblo, address. He's got to come up with a budget, and he publishes all this stuff. He stays accountable to the city council. You're going to have a mayor that's not going to be accountable to anybody. I like having my chief executives accountable to us. It's almost like we're just, let's give Chris Nickel all the fucking power in the fucking world, and then he's going to save us all. That's not going to be it. He will not save us all. And if that's your choice, well, he can become the chief executive without changing the entire system. So, why don't you all quit being pussies, city council? If you don't like Sam Azad, just fire him. But to change the entire form of government just because you don't want to have an awkward conversation with, a person you consider a friend, you can still be his friend. He's been in there for 5 years. He's ran things pretty, I think it's pretty, there's a lot of stability there. So, and here's another thing. You get strong mayor in there, who's to prevent Sam Azad from running for mayor? I would nominate, somebody from his cabinet for continuity's sake, right? Scott Hobson. Let's nominate Scott Hobson. We haven't changed nothing. If we did that nothing changes. All we did was go from calling Sam Azad to a city manager, which he was a strong chief executive, can hire and fire everybody. He's got the budget. And then we can go, to him being a mayor. And now the only difference is Sam Azad as mayor can't be fired unless a major recall effort is pushed to fire him. That's the only way you can fire Sam Azad if he's mayor. If Sam Azad is mayor, you can only fire him through a tough recall effort. Now you can just fire Sam Azad like that. That's all you got to do. Get 4 of the 7 to say fire him, and then he's out. So you're taking away power from the legislative branch, which is the people's branch. Parliament represents the people. Congress represents the people. So to be against the legislative branch, I think it shows a weak character, shows you don't understand the rule of law, the 3 branches of government, and you don't believe they're cornerstones of American democracy. Which I do. So if you wanted Chris Nickel to become mayor, he can become the chief executive right now through the application process. And you're not guaranteed that he'll become mayor. And if you get Sam Azad back in there, which he probably is humble. I don't even know. He doesn't seem like he's a power-hungry person. But if he becomes mayor, well, what the fuck did you change? All you did was give Sam Azad more power, and now you can't fire him. You went from going to, having city council having the ability to fire the chief executive to now having a city council that can't fire the chief executive. That's not good. You're having one less checks and balances. You're voting for tyranny. It's already a corrupt fucking question. You're going to have this government operating off the charter. The charter is there's so much potential out of that charter. Come on now.